presidential contender and a very prominent member of the military with a long-standing career as a Vietnam POW. When he speaks, people listen, and he really made the push, speaking to our own David Frost a little bit earlier, saying that in fact that a no-fly zone when it comes to the U.S. response would be the most effective response to the crisis.
His Air Force is very small and weak. His air defenses are there, but I don't think they would pose a significant challenge. And again, you know, there's always the psychological aspect of war. If I was a Libyan pilot and I was told that if I fly and attack my own people, that the chances are the United States sooner or later will make sure that that doesn't happen again, I think that could have a very ameliorating effect on their desire to carry out Gaddafi's orders.
Well, that's extremely confusing, isn't it? You've got John McCain, you've got the State Department saying, let's impose this no-fly zone. You've got the Pentagon saying it's a bad idea. What do you read into that mixed message?
Well, what I read into it from my years of covering Washington is that once again we find an administration in a situation where it simply doesn't know how to react, and so it is trying to cover all of its bases. We heard from President Obama just 24 hours ago saying that he will not rule out any option in terms of military or non-military, and really saying that in fact the way to deal with this is to have everything in place so if things deteriorate to a severe level, the U.S. can react quickly.
Okay, Kimberly Halkett reporting there. Thank you, Kimberly. Well, the United Nations says Muammar Gaddafi's government has asked that diplomat Ali Treki be granted credentials as Libya's new representative. The UN has also received a letter requesting diplomatic credentials be withdrawn for Ambassador Mohammed Shalgam and Deputy Ambassador Ibrahim Dabashi. Both have been critical of Gaddafi for his actions against protesters. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon is currently, quote, studying both letters. Our correspondent, Christian Salumi, is at the United Nations. Right, we've seen this before with the ambassador, the Libyan ambassador to the US, same kind of situation. How is this playing out at the UN? What does it really mean?
Well, it makes for a very awkward situation, but what we're hearing from UN officials behind the scenes is that Gaddafi is still the recognized leader of Libya. No one is challenging that, and as the leader, he or his foreign minister have the right to name their representative here at the United Nations. So I think it's likely that Ali Treki is going to be recognized and receive credentials here. Now, he may have a fight on his hands when he tries to show up at the Libyan mission to the United Nations to try to get an office, because I spoke to the deputy ambassador earlier today, and he tells me that Mr. Treki will not be welcome there. Most of the mission, as you noted, has turned and against Gaddafi and have broken from him. The picture of him has been taken down at the mission, and the officials there say that they speak for the Libyan people. But it is likely that Ali Treki will soon be the official voice of Libya at the UN. Now, will the former ambassador and the former deputy ambassador still continue to have a voice here at the United Nations and in the Security Council? I think that's quite possible and quite likely. We know that they were very influential in getting the recent sanctions resolution passed in the Security Council. So while they may not have official status, they will likely continue to be a voice to be heard here at the UN.
Okay, so interesting to see how that plays out, but the UN's been here before.
Well, you know, I've asked if nobody I've asked can remember a case where an existing ambassador continued to, broke from the government and continued to work in some capacity here. The nearest example that people refer to is what happened in the early 90s with Rwanda. Then the Rwandan government was actually on the Security Council when the government was responsible for these mass killings in that country. And at that time, there was an opposition movement, the Rwandese Patriotic Front, that would stand outside of Security Council meetings and engage with the diplomats and engage with the media there. So there was an official government representative of a government that was widely disparaged by the international community, but still serving in the Security Council. But you did have this opposition movement, which did have some voice and some presence here.
Christian Salumi at the United Nations. We'll be back with more later in the program. But now a ship carrying Libyan cash has been forced back to port in the UK after failing to dock in Tripoli. Let's head to Stephen Cole in London for more on that. Now, Stephen, I believe the banknotes on board were actually printed in the UK.
That's right, Jane, and they are now under lock and key in Harwich on the south coast of England, all $162 million of it. And with it becoming apparent the Gaddafi money trail is spread far and wide, today it cost the head of one of London's top universities his job. Paul Brennan reports.
The London School of Economics counts some of the world's top political and business leaders among its alumni. But it's the donations of one particular former student, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, which have shaken this university all the way to the top. Sir Howard Davis, the LSE director, quit on Thursday, accepting blame for the school's close links to the Libyan regime.
I decided that I would not stay on because the reputation of the school is my responsibility, and it has, as you rightly say, been damaged, and I think I need to take the responsibility for that.
The LSE Council has commissioned the former Lord Chief Justice, Lord Wolfe, to look into the financial dealings with Libya, including a $3.6 million contract to train Libyan officials in leadership skills, a $2.4 million donation from Saif Gaddafi's charitable foundation, and $37,000 from the same foundation for academics to travel to Libya. Sir Howard remains popular among LSE students, most of whom blame his demise on circumstance rather than judgment.
No one condones what Gaddafi's doing. It's terrible, it's disgusting, and we'd be stupid to accept any type of money today. But that money that they gave 5 years ago was to help African development and research in Africa, and it was done through legal channels. There was nothing underhand so far that we know about. So I just think, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, as you say, and it's all just been blown out of proportion, to be honest.
He's extremely unlucky because, you know, it just so happens that now everyone's seeing Gaddafi under a bad eye because of what's happening. He has to take the blame for it. It seems kind of unfair.
I think it's more a publicity issue than an issue of, say, the stewardship of the university.
One student leader says other academics, other universities are equally culpable.
You know, students are actually questioning what's happening at the university, where they're getting their money from, but also, even at the LSE, there are other people who are in the upper echelons of this university who still need to sort of come to terms publicly with what they've done in the past.
Few here believe the LSE is alone among British academic institutions in having accepted past legitimate donations from now deeply questionable sources. And Howard Davis's resignation still leaves many questions unanswered. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera at the London School of Economics.
The Dutch government says every diplomatic angle is being pursued to secure the release of 3 Marines taken by Libyan forces on Sunday. The Dutch have refused to identify the Marines, nor have they commented on the mission that landed them in Sirte. But their faces have been broadcast on Libyan television. Charlie Angela has more.
Their capture was surrounded in secrecy, but now footage of the 3 Dutch Marines has aired on Libyan state TV, clearly showing one member of the team is female. The Dutch government still refusing to officially confirm their identities, but their families know, and the 3 are still in the hands of Colonel Gaddafi.